We got Andy Brown kicking off with us. So let's kick in with this first major topic, which is Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is a linebacker for the Dallas Cowboys. He was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys overall 12 in the 2021 year. Top flight linebacker coming out of Penn State. He played at the top of the key at Penn State, and he wore number 11, which is a very legacy number at Penn State for linebackers. You know, a lot of players that's in the past from Penn State wore the number 11, so that was an honor in itself to be able to play for the Nittany Lions with that number 11, because that number 11 carry a lot of weight in that program. So Penn State was known as a linebacker university ever since I could remember, even back in the 80s when Joe Pa was there. And, you know, they had Walker Lee Ashley. They had Shane Conlon. They had LeVar Arrington. I mean, those are just to name a few of the top linebackers to come out of Penn State. I can't say enough about how well their linebackers played in that defense that they played over the last century. I'll go back and say the last century. And Micah Parsons only carried on that legacy, you know, when he technically took it over. He forego his senior year, basically, during that COVID year, to go ahead and go to the pros, which was a very good idea. It was a very good decision on his part, I thought. And Jerry Jones was pretty far out to draft him, but now we've come to a point that his rookie contract is technically getting ready to end, and Micah Parsons is asking for top money. I mean, he's asking for a bag that's going to put him probably in the number one spot, even what TJ Watt just signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just want to say this. Jerry Jones, who's the general manager and the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, he plays hardball. He doesn't give up money very easily. However, he has in the past given up money when he knew that there was a potential threat that the player that he was going to try to play hardball with was going to leave. I mean, because one thing about opportunity in this country, opportunity is other places. There is a ton of other NFL teams that would be more than happy to have Micah Parsons on their roster. Think about this. Micah Parsons will get paid. I would think the Philadelphia Eagles or even the Washington Commanders, even in the same division as the Cowboys, which is the NFC East, could be spots for Micah Parsons. So, Isaiah, help break down to me what you think that Jerry Jones is trying to accomplish here, because I thought his press conference just a few days ago that I watched was very offensive. Some of the things that he said, he mentioned Dak Prescott's name as being, oh, well, I paid this top flight quarterback and he was injured the whole year. I paid Ezekiel Elliott, and he might not have mentioned Ezekiel's name, but he was just mentioning overall that there was players in the past that he paid and they didn't pan out. So do you think Micah Parsons should go ahead and just say, look, just release me, let me go. I'll be more than happy to go someplace else. Give me your take on that.
Jerry is a business guy, man. And he's that thing all the way to the end. And just like these other players that we're talking about, these people, they weigh their options, and what Jerry gonna see is he's gonna go out there and see where that market is for him. He's gonna see who's pulling and tugging to get this player from him. He's gonna try all of that. And then ultimately, if he sees somebody who's getting ready to match that thing, he's just gonna pay the player, man. Because one thing about it, he knows it's a business, he knows it's a game, and potentially a guy can get hurt. You know, who can say he's not gonna get hurt? We just paid Tua top dollar a couple years ago, and he hadn't been healthy his whole career here, and we just throw the whole dump truck at him. So Jerry knows how this game goes. He's the owner and the GM. He's been doing this thing for 30 years now, so he know how it goes. So what he's going to do is he's going to play hardball, and then when that time run out, where somebody say, "Okay, listen, I'll give it to him," and then he's going to say, "Here you go, man," and bring the guy back to camp and proceed with the season. So that's all this is. Remember when Zeke was there? They say, "Hey, man, you gonna pay Zeke?" He said, "Zeke who? Who was it?" He was trying to act like he didn't even know who Zeke was until that time came. He just paid him, and that's
Right.
what I think he's going to do in this time too. I really think he's going to put because Jerry won a championship, and this guy been like he's been like the dominant defensive player for his squad. So you're not letting no guy go like that when you won a championship. Why would you let this guy go when you know what you got as an athlete on your team, and then just try to go get somebody else to replace him when you know what you got right here? And it's all about money, and he got it. He's got the money. I see if he was broken, he was saying, "I need other players. I need to get 2 or 3 more other players for that money." He's not looking at that. He knows what he got. He's going to play the guy. He's going to pay him. I guarantee he's going to pay him.
Well, this is my take on it. Defensive players, to me, and Jerry should know better as far as I'm concerned, because he's been the owner and the manager, general manager for 36 plus years, right? Defensive players versus offensive players, to me, there's a difference there from my perspective. When you have a defensive player at the caliber of Micah Parsons, you don't slight him when it comes to his bag. You give him his money, because one of the reasons you give him his money is because he is one of the best edge rushers in the NFL with only 4 years under his belt. I mean, why would you slight him when he's coming up due to get paid, right?
He's not letting him go, man. The guy's young.
I don't see him letting him go either.
Like that, Ghost.
Yeah.
You let an old guy go, but you're not letting a young player go like that, man, who just got off a rookie contract. And not only that, this guy's deserving of it. When you just come off a rookie contract when you're actually not making that much money, and now it's time to get rewarded for all that good work you've done for 3 years, it's time to get paid, man. Because if he don't do it, somebody's gonna do it. Somebody's gonna do it. I guarantee you that somebody's gonna pay him.
Absolutely. And let me give a comparison here to Ezekiel Elliott, who was paid. He was finally paid because Zeke was holding out for more money as well. But there's a difference here. Ezekiel Elliott is a running back. Running backs, to me, are plentiful in the NFL. You could replace a running back a lot easier than you could replace a top edge rusher. TJ Watt proved that in Pittsburgh, that TJ Watt is, to me, the number one edge rusher in the league, and Micah Parsons falls right behind him in that regard, as far as I'm concerned. Now, it's pretty embarrassing for Pittsburgh to sign TJ Watt and give TJ Watt the bag that he was asking for to keep him there, but Jerry seems to want to play hardball with Micah Parsons. It might be due to Micah Parsons' youth. It might be due to the fact that Jerry is trying to, basically, in a light way of saying it, intimidate Micah Parsons to make him capitulate to take less money. Now, you tell me, am I right or wrong on that?
Well, he's just a strategy, man. He's doing that. He's doing it to everybody, man. He does it to everybody because it's just a game to him. This is just a philosophy of him being a GM. He's going to hardball the guy, hardball the guy, hardball the guy until he's backed into a corner where the guys see other people that's interested in him. And that's when Jerry said, "All right, man, come on, enough is enough. Let's just go ahead and go because the season getting ready to start." Remember, they have several more weeks for training camp, and then of course they started playing these pregame games. So Jerry know the guy's in shape. He know he's ready to go. He know what he has. So he's gonna play that little cat and mouse game with him until the season is like right there. So he's gonna stick the guy and plug him in and pay him. He's gonna get paid because Jerry he's not cheap. He's just using a strategy. That's it. He's going to pay him. He knows what it entails to win a championship. And the type of player this guy is, you're not letting him walk away. You're not. That's what you need. I mean, you know what kind of void you would have to fill if he let this guy go. He's not willing to take that risk, DC. He's just going to play this game about not just handing it over. I mean, it's just like when you get your brand new Ferrari and here's your son want to drive it. He's like, oh man, I don't think I'm going to let you use it, but I'll let you use the Ford. I'll let you take that one. But you're going to be real tingly to let him take that Ferrari out. But once you know what you got, oh, he's been driving right beside me for a long time. I know he can handle a Ferrari, so you give it to him. You know what you got. You know he can handle it, and Jerry knows this guy can handle this position.
Absolutely,
he's going to pay him. You watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of support for Micah Parsons because his record speaks for itself, and I'm going to read off his numbers in 4 seasons. 172 solo tackles, 84 assisted tackles, 52.5 sacks. So that's technically 53 sacks. And he has 0 interceptions. So his numbers somewhat is below TJ Watt because TJ Watt has played a lot longer in the league than Micah Parsons has played. So that right there, as far as a resume goes, speaks volumes to me because if he wasn't producing, there wouldn't even be any question about Jerry, holding out and saying, look, you haven't earned this bag like this. But as far as I'm concerned, Micah Parsons has earned this bag and he's asking for a max deal. I would call it a Supermax deal because technically it might even put him above what TJ Watt ended up just signing a couple of weeks ago. I would say probably a month ago. If Pittsburgh sealed TJ Watt because they couldn't afford to let him get out of there to go to a competitor like Cleveland or Baltimore or somewhere like that, right? So these players, they have leverage in some ways, and they use that leverage now.
Yeah. One thing I can clearly see with stuff like this too, DC, we really don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes. And
True.
I'm going to give you an example. Remember the year when they had that mega trade and, they got Wade, Bosch, and all those guys together in LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
They got all those guys together. They sat those guys down, and Pat Riley had to get a bag and put it to the table and say, okay, this is the amount we have to spend, right? Mm-hmm. So then you go in the background and you got guys like Haslam and the other guys who had already started declining in their production. And you start trying to either make these guys take a pay cut or don't do this or restructure their own contract. See, that could be happening here too. If we're going to give this guy everything he wants and we need him in place, we need to start trying to restructure other guys' contract where all this thing could fit. It's a puzzle. That's all it is a puzzle. And then perhaps may say, listen, man, if you take, $10,000, $10 million less, we can work this deal out today. And the guy say, oh, man, I ain't taking nothing less. So then you still got to go back to the table and work out those other contracts before you sit this thing and get this guy this max deal. So we don't know if that stuff not happening, man, because Jerry probably do want to pay this guy. But he can't afford to do that and bring all of these other players in place to be able to be competitive. Because when you just pay one guy and you don't have everything else in place, you still don't have anything. Because this is a team sport. It ain't
absolutely.
Like you just give a guy one big bag. So everything has to coincide. And that's probably what they're doing behind the scenes, working out these numbers, man, and to make sure they can give the guy what he wants, either cut somebody else to make sure they can fulfill what he needs. So we really got to sit and wait for a little bit, see how this thing panned out.
It seems to me, and I don't know Jerry Jones personally, but however, I do believe that since he's a billionaire and since he's on the team, I think Jerry likes to feel like the terms were on his terms as opposed to the players' terms. So what Jerry does is Jerry hard bargains for his own terms to get those terms as close to what the other party is actually requesting in demand for the type of contract that they're looking for. Correct me if I'm wrong now, but I'm just saying Jerry is one of those egotistical guys that he has to win. He has to have it where, look, this contract was on my terms. It wasn't on Micah Parsons' terms. This contract was on my terms, not his terms. And once Jerry can get to that point in this negotiation where he feels like, look, if Micah Parsons is asking for $200 million, let's just say, over a span of a couple of years or 6-7 years, however they may pan all of that out, Jerry will bring it as close as he can to that request of that $200 million. So he could say, look, this is what I'm offering. This is last offer. This is all I'm going to put on the table. And you marinate it. You can go home, think about it, sit, do whatever you want. But the terms in Jerry's mind is going to be on Jerry's terms, not the other party's terms. Now, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. I took a symposium with super agent Leigh Steinberg. Leigh Steinberg is based in Newport Beach, California. Newport Beach is probably about 40 miles plus away from Los Angeles. I saw the ad. I jumped all over the ad. So we spent one day with Leigh Steinberg in Newport Beach in his office, me and probably about 20 other people. We were trying to learn how to become sports agents, so just have the background, of the inner workings of being a sports agent. Doesn't matter which sport. He was talking about baseball, football, basketball, the whole nine. So technically, Leigh Steinberg brought up an example of Jerry Jones in his, during his time that he was talking to us. And he said that, look, I represented Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman was one of the best top all-pro NFL quarterbacks in the league. There was a time where Leigh Steinberg represented almost all of the top 10 quarterbacks. Yeah. Joe Montana, Steve Young, Troy Aikman. I can go on and on and on of how many people he's represented in terms of their status in the NFL. So he broke it down to us like this. Leigh Steinberg said, look, Jerry Jones didn't want to pay Troy Aikman what Troy Aikman thought his market value was. However, Leigh Steinberg said the negotiations just went back and forth. And pretty much his conversation with Troy was, you might have to start making some additional plans because you might have to force your way out if he doesn't want to pay you what you're asking for. So Leigh made a proposal to Troy to basically build a compilation of his whole entire career in the NFL based on stats. And he put all of that into a PowerPoint presentation. And he compared that to other quarterbacks in the NFL. And he took that to Jerry Jones during those negotiations. And he told me those negotiations, or told us as a class, those negotiations were intense to a point where there was not very, very many happy people in the room from time to time.
Of course. I mean, that's how it is, man. That's money you're getting ready to spend.
Yes, it got to a point of contention. It got contentious to a point. So he presented that PowerPoint presentation to Jerry Jones about Troy Aikman. And look, this is the value that he's bringing to your franchise. This is the value that's going to help win you Super Bowls. And this is the value that's going to keep your team at the top of the food chain with winning Super Bowls. Now, if you want to let him out of here, go and let him out of here, because he'll go someplace else and he will get paid what he's asking for somewhere else. So eventually, Jerry Jones bargained down to a point where he pretty much gave Troy Aikman what he wanted or what he was asking for. But Jerry considered it as a win on his own terms. Do you get my drift? He considered it a win on his own terms because he was able to take it the distance and not just give Troy Aikman right up front what he was asking for, which he should have done, because Troy Aikman helped win multiple Super Bowls. The Cowboys were getting ready to be a dynasty until Jerry screwed it up and got rid of Jimmy Johnson. If he wouldn't have gotten rid of Jimmy Johnson, who's to say the Cowboys wouldn't have won 5 or more Super Bowls, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this is the type of hard bargain that Jerry Jones drives, and Micah Parsons and his agent needs to be aware of that, which I think they are. And they just need to really stay firm to what they're asking for. Look, if you can't present us with what we're asking for, we're going to be going and looking at other options to see who would give us the money, because someone else will give us the money that we're asking for. So we're giving you first dib and first take at offering him the money. And if you don't want to offer him his bag, look, let him go. Just release him and let him go. Don't keep dragging this thing on, is what I'm saying about that. And there has been past players that's been in the Cowboys organization that didn't get paid. They didn't get paid what they were asking for. I mean, Dez Bryant was one of them. I mean, I could name a few players, I mean, that they went through that transgression of trying to get a better deal, and Jerry just wouldn't budge on it.
Yeah,
He
but
wouldn't
that's
budge.
in their situation, DC. I thought it was some personal stuff involved with Dez. I don't think he particularly liked Dez, but the rest of these guys, I think Jerry ultimately liked them. Eggman, he ultimately liked Eggman.
Oh,
The
he
only
loved
thing he
Aikman.
didn't do.
Yeah, he loved
That's what I'm
Aikman.
telling you. He loved those guys, the Emmett and
Yes.
the playmaking, the rest. He loved those guys, man. He didn't love Desmond, right? He did not, because Desmond was outspoken and he said things that wasn't, feasible for the team and stuff like that. And he had a little trouble here and there too. So he didn't particularly like him as a person. That's why he didn't pay him. Now, let me show you how right you are with this thing. Remember when Deshaun Watson got that money from the Browns?
Sure.
You know who complained about that the most out of every owner in the league was Jerry Jones. Jerry felt like it ain't no way in the world I would have gave this guy guaranteed 100% of all that money. He just wouldn't have done it. He wouldn't have done it. He was pissed because it set that bar. Even in this case, Jerry don't want to be the man who's paying the most.
True.
And if he pay this guy, he will be paying the most. He don't want to be the guy. He want the best, but he don't want to be the guy who's shelling out the most money. And this is why it's difficult for him to pull the trigger and pay this guy. It's going to go back and forth. It's going to be that tug of war, seesaw type of battle. But I think he's going to pay him because of what kind of player this guy is and what he brings to the table. And I think he's going to pay him, but he's going to strategize and pull and tug and see if he can get the upper hand in this contract. That's what's getting ready to go down.
Well, on behalf of Dez Bryant, whether Jerry liked him or not, he produced. Dez Bryant, when he got to Dallas out of Oklahoma State, Dez Bryant hit the ground running, and Dez Bryant was one of the deepest threats in the NFL at the time. Dez Bryant, to me, was a smaller version of T.O. in terms of size. T.O. was taller than him, in my opinion. But Dez Bryant was the type of receiver that if he caught it and turned upfield, you wasn't going to get him on the ground. You just wasn't going to get him on the ground. So I could agree with you saying that he might have not have, felt good about Dez Bryant as far as Dez's relationship with him. I mean, I would say that. But Dez produced on the field, so that meant Dez should have gotten paid, in my opinion. Dez should have got paid. He should have gotten paid.
He should have.
Yeah.
But listen, man, that's 50% of the battle. If a guy like you, he can pay you. He'll bite the bullet and pay you. But if he really don't like you, man, he don't want you on that team and you paying enormous money like that, and he really don't like you, man. He would prefer trying to get an average receiver. That's what he'll do. This is a whole different thing on defense now.
That's exactly what I was saying earlier, that defense is not offense. Offense, to me, you could plug and play, to me, a lot easier with offense than you can defense.
Sure can.
And my message to Jerry Jones, and he's been the general manager of the Cowboys for 36 plus years. Jerry, Defense wins championships. And I know you already know that. However, you want to play hardball, go ahead and play it. But defense wins championships, and to plug and play a linebacker like Micah Parsons is not going to easily be replaced. I'll just tell you that with your defense.
He knows that, DC. He ain't crazy. He might be falling on the wayside on certain things, but he knows exactly what's going to win him a championship if he ever get there again, and it's going to have to be a defense. He got to build him a defense. The first thing Jimmy did.
That's the first thing Jimmy did was build a defense, right? He built the defense. He built around that defense with the offense because, you know, he had playmaker, he had Troy Aikman, you know, he had a lot of other good players. Emmitt Smith. I mean, they had the offensive players that were superstars, right?
Yeah, but they got rid of Herschel to get this thing in motion, DC, remember? They got rid of Herschel Walker and then just start plugging everybody else in.
Yes.
Yeah.
So with all of that said, Micah Parsons should get his bag. I'm not saying he might get everything that he's asking for, but he should get somewhere close to what he's asking for because there's rumors spreading all over social media about he could potentially go to Philadelphia. I mean, they had him on Instagram in a Eagles jersey the other day that I was looking at. Just think if he were to go to Philadelphia and Philadelphia plays Dallas, I believe twice a year. Would that be something? Micah Parsons getting to Dallas's quarterback, which is, you know, Dak Prescott.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think, and, you know, I find this ironic that Jerry went to Tony Romo and paid Tony Romo. Tony Romo didn't have to fight for his money when he was there. Did Tony Romo have to fight for his money? Did he have to fight for his bag?
No,
I don't think he did. He did not.
But guess what I'm telling you?
So when you play golf with the owner and you're the owner's running the road dog, you'll get your money. You'll get your bag. You ain't got to worry about it, right?
Listen, he liked Tony Romo. He loved Tony Romo, man. He loved him. I mean, that's the reason why he did that. I mean, he loved Tony Romo. And he let him stay there as long as he wanted. Like, come on, DC, man.
He didn't even want to get rid of him.
Nope. I mean, Tony Romo got hurt, and he's seen that he just wasn't the guy when they replaced him. But he held on to him. He held on to him because he really liked him as a person, and that stuff goes a long way. I said it was 50%. I think it's actually more than 50% of the battle. I think it's about 75 to 80% of it when a owner liked the player personally, not just his game. Personally, like his attitude, he liked him as a person, he liked his family. All of that stuff was bottled into one thing with Jerry and Romo. He just really liked him, man, because he felt like Romo was a smart kid and he enjoyed his candor, and they got along well.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. However, when another player is a superstar player and they ask for their bag, you know, and you want to play hardball with them, to me, it just makes me think that, look, you need to be more in tune with Jerry to get your money versus just being a superstar player. That's the way I'm looking at it. So Micah Parsons, I'm going to tell him right now, hold your ground, bro. Hold your ground and don't budge much. If you budge, he's going to cave you in. That's just the way it is. That's how people like Jerry Jones do business. He will cave you in if you don't hold your ground. You got to hold your ground, pretty much.
It's simple. DC, stuff like this as a player, it's super simple, man. You put out the amount of money that you want and just stay there. And let him think about what he's going to do with his
Let
team.
him marinate with it, right?
Yeah, that's all you do. That's all you do. You put the money, you put yourself out there with the dollars amount you want, and just let him marinate on it. Don't say nothing else. Don't bend, because his numbers speak for itself. His talent speaks for itself. So why you got to go back and forth negotiating? That's all you have to do. It's easy. I've seen people get the bag that they wanted without even an agent. Well, you've seen it,
Absolutely.
DC. You've seen
Absolutely.
it.
Lamar Jackson
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to bring
Lamar
it up.
Jackson and his mother negotiated his contract and got every bit of money that Lamar Jackson was asking for. Not
Dante
1 cent
Culpepper did the
less.
same thing.
Not 1
Dante
cent less.
Culpepper did the same thing.
Yes.
Remember Dante Culpepper did the same
I remember
thing?
Dante Culpepper did it. Yes.
Yep.
And there was a handful of other players that did it too. They went in and they hard bargained and they say, look, this is what I'm gonna put on the table. If you don't want to take it, I'll explore my options someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing about football. They have 32 teams. And that's a good thing, because if you have 32 teams, that means that you can go negotiate with other teams depending on the terms of the contract that you're currently under. But if you become a free agent, you can go negotiate with other teams. I like to see Micah Parsons with the Dolphins. I'd love to see Stephen Ross pay that man and bring him down there.
Yeah, the way they doing it, they may give him the money. We'll see. We'll see.
Well, we'll revert back and just say what you were saying makes sense. Jerry's going to pay the man. Jerry's going to give him the terms that he wants. Maybe subtract it, maybe one or two things, but he's going to give him the terms he wants. So here are some of the other players that technically held out to get their bag. Emmitt Smith was one of them in 1993. Emmitt Smith held out and got the money that he was asking for.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Now, on the flip side of that, DeMarcus Ware was cut over a contract, according to this, information that I'm basically sourcing right here. Dez Bryant was released after a pay dispute, according to this information. He franchise tagged Dak Prescott before the extension, because I think what he did is he franchise tagged him, which technically the player has to stay there and accept whatever the offer on the table was at the time to gain an extra year of leverage. I'm assuming that that's what Jerry was doing.
And that following year,
that following year, he paid that.
Yes, he paid him. Yeah.
Yes. So, it speaks volumes, and it looks like Micah Parsons is only one of two defensive players that Jerry has dealt with, and according to this, DeMarcus Ware was cut. Trust me, Micah Parsons is going to get what he's asking for in the terms that I'm looking at from my perspective.
I think he is.
Ain't no doubt about it. Because if you look at DeMarcus Ware, he was one of the greatest pass rushers in the history of the Cowboys franchise. You remember Ed Too Tall Jones? DeMarcus Ware, I mean, he was a phenomenon comparison to Ed Too Tall Jones and Harvey Martin. You remember Harvey Martin used to play for the Cowboys? These were players before Jerry Jones got there. These were players that was playing above the key before Jerry Jones got there, but they turned around and they were dominant at their positions, just like Micah Parsons is dominant at his current position. That's the resume. That speaks volumes. Look, my resume says this, and this is on paper, and this is on film. And this is real time, what you're looking at. This is not a resume of some stranger walking up to you and saying, here's my resume. This is what I've done in my past. This is real time. Micah Parsons has changed games during the game with his play and with his aggression. I mean, he could change the whole dynamic of a game with the way he rushes a quarterback.
Yeah.
And we talked about LT over a month ago, right? Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor's best in the history of pro football. He redefined the linebacker position. But Micah Parsons is somewhat of a hybrid where he could, they call him a defensive end in certain defensive alignments, or they can call him a linebacker in certain defensive alignments. And he could change the whole dynamic of a season for the Cowboys based on his athletic ability. So I'm just saying that we'll definitely monitor this thing out with him, but this is one we're going to keep a close eye on to make sure that things are going like we just explained they were going.
Yes.
Hey, peeps, and welcome to the DC Stewart Show podcast. Derek speaking.
All right, there.
And I'm not. How you doing?
You're currently tuned in to the DC Stewart Show podcast, where sports, culture, and real talk collide.
From football breakdown to the very latest in current events.
And exclusive interviews you do not want to miss.
So don't touch that dial. Stay tuned to the DC Stewart Show podcast, and be sure to crush that subscribe button and hit that like button. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers in the next 30 days. So please help us out. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Andy Brown has another topic for us. Let's move on to this second topic. We're going to talk about Marcus Morris, and he goes by Marcus Morris Sr., NBA player, 13 years in the NBA, dominant player, role player, but more dominant than role. I think he comes in and he could really make a difference in games when he does play. We spoke a little bit on our last show's episode about Marcus Morris being arrested in Fort Lauderdale International Airport based on allegations of fraud with check writing. So it looks as though he was arrested because there were some warrants out for his arrest from several casinos in Nevada, and they were going to extradite him to Nevada to stand trial for those debts to those casinos. Because let me tell you something, one thing that I know like Vegas. I know about Vegas. If you run up debt in Vegas, you ain't going to just walk away like it's a credit card debt and I'm not going to pay the tab. I'm not going to pay it. Like a lot of people with credit card debt, look, I can't pay it. I ain't paying it. You know, I'm not going to pay it. And there's no consequences other than messing up your credit. They can ruin your credit for 7 to 10 years, right? But when you run up them debts in them casinos, you're going to pay them debts. So they got a place for you with Big Brutus, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then before that, back 50, 60 years ago, you could potentially disappear if you didn't pay those debts off from those casinos, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about what you think about Marcus Morris, because it looks as though the current news that I just read that he actually paid off the debts to the casinos. Could he have done that first?
Maybe he was just testing the waters. You know, he had no clue that it was going to be that severe for him. People gotta realize, man, when you start gambling, it ain't like you out there shooting crap with your boys and then you take off with $600, man. And your boys is mad at you. This thing is different, man, altogether. It's gangster, but you gotta take care of that tab, man, when you go in there and start gambling and things like that, man. What he did is just got himself out of a lot of trouble, DC, in a nutshell. He just got himself out of a lot of trouble. They probably made pay some fines and he go to court and they wipe it away because he done took care and satisfied his debt. But word to the wise, man, for all these guys who like to go in these casinos, to me, I don't bet.
I don't bet either. I think I played the slot machines twice out of all the times that I've been to Vegas. I'll get a couple of quarters and stick in that slot machine, or a couple of coins and stick in that slot machine. I don't go to those poker tables because I don't know how to play poker. I don't go to those blackjack tables because I don't know how to play blackjack. So I would be committing financial suicide if I did take my hard-earned money and acted like I knew what I was doing. I would be committing financial suicide in a lot of ways, right?
Let me tell you, man, my theory about going to those casinos now, and I'm not saying that I don't like them. This is how I do when I go in the casino. First of all, it's two things that's intriguing to the casino. The parking is free and the food is cheap. That's the reason why I go down to the casino. And
buffet style.
It ain't even got to be buffet. It can just be a good steak and it's reasonably priced. That's it. So I can walk by a slot machine all day, every day, and it don't intrigue me to drop nothing in there. I walk right past. You lose your money, not me. I don't play games like that, man. I don't like betting. I think it's crazy. It's sometimes so addictive where people just got to get involved. Now, remember you and I play our games with betting. If that team loses, you send me some Omaha steaks and stuff like that.
Well, I
That's the
paid my
end of
debt
it. It
off,
don't
so
go
you
no
don't need
further
to
than that.
bring that up. I paid my
Well,
debt.
I can tell folks. And listen, now if I was these casinos, you would have been locked up. I cut down. It took you 2 years. It took you 2 years to pay
They'd have locked me up in the
that.
airport and extradited me down there to pay
Man,
you off, right?
dude. Hey man, I had a big package at my door. I was this much from throwing it in the garbage can, man, because I didn't know what it was. But lo and behold, you satisfied a debt, bro. Unbelievable.
You know what? I just woke up one day and I say, you know what? I got to pay my debt so my credit rating would go back up with Isaiah, and I can get
Oh
my
man.
credit score back up to 850 with Isaiah, because those stakes, you were really putting pressure on me.
Oh
I felt
man.
like about those stakes.
Hey, for the viewers who didn't know what was going on, we betted on a football game. DC lost. He was supposed to send me some Omaha steaks, and it took those years to send it over to the house.
Well, I did it.
Yeah, you finally did it. And the good part about it, it was right on time. The steaks was fantastic. Dessert was good. Everything was fabulous, man. Good stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but
So
you
it looks
finally took care of business.
like Marcus Morris Sr. said, "Fuck Vegas." I'll just say
Uh,
FUCK Vegas after
that was
paying
his
off
own
the
doing, though.
291K casino markers.
That was his own doing. That was his
So
own doing.
basically, I guess he won't go to
Self-inflicted.
Vegas and take that risk anymore, right?
No, if he had got the intentions of losing, then that's the potential chance you have when you go out and gamble, man. If you don't know how to turn away and walk away and run up 200 something K, that's your business, man. And they know he got the money. They could check that out. All they have to do is just check him out thoroughly. They'll know whether he got the money. And of course, if he's still doing anything positive, some agent might pay that. That's a small potato. 200K for certain people ain't nothing. Because he probably got a loan from a buddy to pay that off when you rolling in those circles like that.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. The bottom line is, if you accrue a debt, you better pay it off. I mean, that's with anything. That could be a personal friend. Even these card games, these little personal card games, and these personal, throwing dice games, they can get you taken off this earth for $2, not 291K. They can get you taken off this planet for a lot less if you don't pay off. You know. So, basically, hopefully that's a lesson learned for Marcus Morris, because yes, and if you're gonna write a check, you better make sure that money is in there to cover that check. If that's the allegations, if those allegations are true, you better make sure that money is in there, because if you don't, there's going to be consequences for that. Because nowadays they don't let you off the hook with just accumulating debt and just turning and walking away. Back when I was in high school, people would go get dental work done and then file bankruptcy and then be done with it. Look,
DC, and they look at it as fraud because they know it was intentional. That's the reason why they say it was fraud. Because if you got a bag over here, a bank account that has $500,000 in here, you go to another bank and roll a check that had $20,000. They know good and well that check is not going to clear. So they look at it as fraud because you knew you didn't have that money in there. You wasn't even operating out of this bank account, and all of a sudden you're going to send me this check and it's not going to clear. And of course, whenever you do that, it's a process. I mean, it's got to go through your account and it bounces back to this and it goes like a seesaw. And then there's things going back and forth, and you wind up getting a charge for that, and you got to go through the court system for that bounce check. So
especially if it's for 291K.
Of course, They start looking at big money like that cock out it anyway when those checks start flowing around. You go down to the bank with a $10,000 check, they want to check it out and give you portions of it and make sure this part is in there and all of that kind of crap, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and one more thing too is when checks are written nowadays, I don't know how long ago it was before they started making sure that that money was backed up. If they feed that check into a database or a system that you write that check, let's just say you go purchase a car and you write a check for the entire amount of the car, you're not walking out of there, you're not driving out of there with that car until that check is cleared. And that goes for anything, house or anything like that.
Right away, though, G.
Right.
They could check that out right away.
They could check that out right away. So, you know, in a sense, it saves the person the headache of having to commit fraud, even though you are intentionally commit fraud. If you decide to write a check and you know the money is not there, they're going to spot check and backtrack to make sure their assets don't get affected by it. You know, you go write a check for a car and drive off and then the check bounces. It doesn't work like that anymore.
No. Not even that, D. When you talking about a car, the insurance company want to find out you got the money too, because they got to cover that car in case you go out there and tear it up the moment you pull off the lot, because they got to insure the car for you too. You got to get insurance and everything on that sucker before you get off the lot. So
that's true. That is so true. So let's move on to this next topic Annie Brown has for us is Gilbert Arenas poker charges. Gilbert Arenas posted bail, and it looks as though he was doing the hopscotch when he was coming down the stairs of the courthouse. Do you think that's a smart thing to do?
Dumbest move you can make. It's the dumbest move you can make.
He had a smile on his face like he didn't have a worry in the world, and you know,
like he was Cab Calloway. And the thing is, you see, people got to realize, man, when you get in trouble like this here and it is media driven, don't you think that these judges and these prosecutors watching the news and watching you act a freaking idiot out there dancing and think you already done beat the case? Man, why you think Diddy don't have no damn bail, man? His kids was out there doing every damn dance you could name.
Well, his son, I know, was doing push-ups and dancing, right?
His son was doing all kind of foolish stuff, man. His grandma should have took that cane and hit him right behind the head with it when he was out there dancing, man. And see, what it did is it made people see that you are snubbing your nose at the judicial system, and they wouldn't even let him out. And that's what people got to realize. You wait till this thing is over and done with before you pull a stunt like that. And that's what's sad about it. That's what's sad about it.
Gilbert Arenas must know something we don't know if he comes down those stairs like that, because common sense should tell you, look, go out the back door. You would have probably never even seen me come out the front door when it come to that. I would have went out the back door, the side door, because I don't even want to talk to the media about it, you know? And the last thing I would be doing is celebrating coming out of court after posting bail for something like that. That is not something to take lightly. That is not something to be, to me, like you say, it's kind of poking fun at the judge and the system. Look, I got out. I'm going to be a free man until my court date, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was just blessed enough to be able to get bail because, like I say, his case is entirely different from Diddy's, but Diddy wasn't given the pleasure of posting bail, and Diddy was able to put up his house. He could have put up millions upon millions upon millions of dollars to post bail, and they still didn't let him post bail because his case was different. So it's a different scenario.
He put up $5 million bail, $5 million bail, and they would not even think about letting him off the hook because his son was out there talking crap. Oh, they went to the wrong house. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. And don't you know those prosecutors probably were saying, what? I know we ain't letting this fool out. For him to have enormous charges and this amount of people spoke out against him, and then you out there parading around as if you got off the hook. a bad look, man. It was sick to see that stuff. And that's the reason why he's still locked up without a bail. Spent Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, birthdays, and everything right in the can. Canned him, let him stay in there. And now, ultimately, they're going to sentence him. We don't know how long the sentence is going to be.
Yeah, wouldn't
Really
that be
can't
something that he never saw the light of day again?
say.
Technically, until his entire sentence has been, served out. And man, that's horrible because Diddy is my age. And I'll tell you one thing, that it is not a pleasurable thing to go from where he come from to the point that he got to the point that he's in now. And then he'll be an old gray man before you get up out of there. And he's already gray. He'll be old and gray before you get up out of there.
You talking like this without no teeth. Ain't no wondering things.
I'm not laughing because it's not a laughing matter, and I'm not laughing at Diddy for that. But this was entirely all self-inflicted in a lot of ways, because he should have seen he should have actually been able to foresee a lot of the things that was getting ready to go down. Obviously, he may not have seen, right? But he was a very wealthy man, and he's pretty much kind of like, none of that's going to do any good locked up. So a word to the wise, to Gilbert Arenas, don't celebrate this, man. Don't celebrate this. This is not something to take lightly. This is not something to act like you got it under control. And if you do, you know something that I don't know, or you know something that people don't know. So you might know, but however, you still don't want to make it look like that you are not going to be having to be responsible or be held accountable for these allegations, because if they're alleging it, that means they've compiled evidence from an investigation, right?
No.
So we'll keep an eye on that one as well. Last but not least, Annie Brown has given us a really good one. And let's talk a little bit about Sterling Sharpe, one of the best receivers in the history of college football. And his NFL career was cut short due to injury. He had a neck injury. And if he would have stayed in the NFL without having that injury, who knows what he could have accomplished in terms of receivers, on that list, that wide receiver list that I had. He could have been ranked right up at the top, because he was just that type of receiver. He was a catch and go, catch and run receiver, very elusive. And he knew how to run his routes, a lot like Calvin Johnson, a lot like Randy Moss, a lot like Jerry Rice. Some of those comparisons I can compare Sterling Sharpe to. Now, his little baby brother, Shannon, defied the odds. Shannon defied the odds, went to Savannah State, played football there, and was able to parlay that into the NFL, to the Denver Broncos, where he spent a majority of his career. Year in and year out, he worked harder to solidify his position on that team, and he was able to do that because of hard work, because of effort and determination, that he wasn't going to be denied, because he did not want to go back to the way they grew up in terms of his grandparents raising them up in South Georgia, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it looks like Sterling Sharpe finally got his gold jacket, which was well deserved. It was, to me, it was long overdue. He should have gotten it a lot earlier, in my opinion. Tell me, Isaiah, what do you think about his speech? Because you did watch his speech. And how do you think his speech cross-referenced what Shannon just went through a couple weeks ago with this settlement?
Man, excuse me. That speech was presidential, man. It was really great. It was nice. It was well thought out and written. And the way he delivered it, it was superb. Simply superb. Man, to listen to a family that was severely impoverished, man. I mean, they were on dirt roads, outhouses until they became adults. They had to share clothes. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the sharing clothes thing because you pass them down, you save money because you got a kid that's right up under you. Why would you throw the clothes away? But they had a sister and there's two boys and they work their rear ends off. And then, they start losing the men around there when the grandfather passed away and then the dad passed away. And then the mom had to be that matriarch and everything else you do to support the family, and you endured all of that stuff. And then to put these kids through college, and ultimately they graduated and went up to the NFL and then become Hall of Famers, man. That right there don't happen every day. People got to realize talent alone don't get you in the NFL, man. It has to be so many different fragments of this puzzle come together to get you there. Because think about it. Every high school around this country have seniors that comes out of school every year. Out of that large majority is a very, very small percentage wind up to go play college football out of that long list of seniors. And then after that, you become a senior or whatever the case may be, if you leave early to go inside the NFL draft where it's 32 teams. Dude, you know how many things has to line up for you to be a professional? And then you
A
got two
lot.
brothers.
A lot of things.
Everything has to line up, man. You got two brothers to both play, both go to the Hall of Fame. And of course, with Shay, he had, went to the Super Bowl, and Sterling was out of football. So he give him a ring. He admired his brother so much because he looked up to his brother because he didn't have no other father figure around but his big brother. So his big brother really raised him and taught him good things. Good
Taught him
morals,
values, taught him the values of hard work, the values of appreciation, the values of just being humbled to a point where you don't get beyond thinking that you're better than other people or you better than the person next to you or whatever the case may be. I think Sterling taught him all of that, at least a lot of it.
He taught him a lot of that stuff, and it really is the reason behind his success. We're not talking about all the off the field crap with these women, and that's besides the point. We don't even want to touch on that. That has its own place. But man, just that work ethic and to work hard and to endure the heat and all the other stuff that comes with the hard work, man, and perseverance. That stuff was taught, and you can see it. You can see it clearly, and see it's just a model for us black men too, in particular. And we got to look back and take care of each other. We got to school each other. We got to give people the game in terms of working hard and give them and instill that work ethic and teach us stuff to be a man and own up the responsibility. All of that stuff has to come into play. And when you do that, you make you a better person. You make you a better father. You make you a better citizen. And all that stuff has to come together when you're small. You don't start learning this stuff as an adult because you just miss too much and it ain't going to sink in. But if you grow up the ladder to adulthood, learning these values of work harding and respecting your neighbor and your fellow man and all that stuff, you can't fail.
True.
I've seen nobody who carry out a tough work ethic. When you might fail at something, but you will succeed at the end if you putting that time in, if you putting that work in, and you losing sleep because of it, because that's what it all entails, and that's what it takes for you to be successful. You don't be successful about going to sleep for 8, 10, 12 hours. It ain't gonna happen, dog. Dude, sometimes I be operating on 2 hours of sleep. I'm not complaining because that's what I'm doing to get better. You got to get better at it. And that's how you're going to do growing up to do anything well. You're not going to get better at anything if you don't put that time in. It's a fluke if you think you're going to do it, get good at something, and if you don't practice or you don't put that time in to do it. So listening to that speech, man, I recorded it, listened to it again, DC, because it was something. And then, of course, he took off his jacket and gave it to Shay Shay because Shay Shay had given him the ring. So that was an evil quarrel there, man. It was nice. It was really nice, man. I enjoyed watching it. I'm gonna watch it again sometime later on in the week.
So,
Yeah.
Isaiah, let me ask you this: did Sterling have anything in his speech in defense of his family and his family values and protecting his family, even with Shay Shay having these issues you just explained? Did you pick up anything in his speech that it was basically saving his family's legacy, or it was just a speech where he just was being Sterling? He was just going to be natural and down to earth. Was it that way?
Listen, man, that would have been counterproductive, man, because it wasn't about nothing with Shay Shay. It would have been counterproductive. Don't even mention it. As a matter of fact, I watched 2 days before then. He was on the golf course with Roland Martin, and Roland was trying to get him to cry because it was something of an accomplishment. Where you gonna cry? He's like, "Nah, I'm not a crier. I had to be tough for my brother and my family when my grandfather died, and then when my dad was died, I had to be tough." So he's smart enough not to bring all of that negativity on something that was supposed to be glitz and glamour and fun. You know, you don't bring it in. Don't even say nothing about. Now Shay Shay was in there crying like he was at a funeral, man. He
Why
was
is that?
freaking
Why do you think
emotional
Shay
about it.
Shay got so emotional about this thing?
Because it was two things. Because first of all, think about something, DC. I mean, you and I have been friends since we was 3 or 4 years old. Just think about just us as friends. You know how happy I am for you when I seen your relationship with your wife. You know, I seen this. I see vacations. Just to see you something good happening in your life, man. And that's what was happening there. He seen his brother going to the promised land, so to speak, man, where you go into the Hall of Fame, an accomplishment that was worthy years ago, and you got there. You don't think he's going to cry? Somebody who you looked up to, somebody who you gave your room to because he didn't have one. So now tears are trickling down his face because he's gotten there. I've seen people in church give their life to Christ and start crying because they're so emotional. And then think about something. You go to church and you see somebody give their life to Christ who you knew should have been dead. And all of a sudden, he got that extra added lifespan where he now are saved. And he's fulfilled something. And you cry for them because you're like, man, that guy could have got killed, or he could have had this, or he could have been in jail. And now he's saved and he's given his life to Christ. Those are the emotions that runs through a person's body when they see somebody that they care about, they love, and they admire accomplish something. It's that powerful, man, when you shed tears behind it. You know, it's that sense of warmth of you getting it from somebody that you hold dear and passionate to your heart, man. That's the thing. Those are those tears of joy that people talk about, man. That's what he was shedding those tears about. And the same guy who just was patting him on the back and said, dude, you just gave away $23 million to somebody who you played the game with and it didn't pan out right. But that's okay, man. We're going to blow over this thing. She didn't break you. You're still rich. She didn't break you. And if you are broke, I got your back now. So those the kind of things that people got to look at this thing square in the face for. Maybe he don't learn his lesson because he done got took to the cleanest. But family-wise, man, dude, it was just a little mishap right there, and we're going to go on with our lives according to them. That's the way they live in it. That's just the way they live in it, DC.
Absolutely. And to have a brother like Sterling, I mean, it's priceless. I mean, for Shannon to have a brother like Sterling, I think it's priceless. An elder brother like Sterling. It can help you get through those tough times, even when they were children on up until this point now. And you know, you call him and say, look, man, I'm going through this crisis with this particular person. And now I'm being dragged into court by this particular person, this wanting money from me, which I don't think I owe. However, the court system will say you do owe it if in fact the cards fall that way. But to have a brother like Sterling Sharpe, I think Shannon Sharpe is extremely blessed. And I think he's humbled to have a brother like that. And his brother led the way for him into athletics. And Shannon parlayed that from Savannah State all the way to the Denver Broncos. And the thing that I like most about Shannon is something that he said when he was with the Denver Broncos. He said, look, they drafted tight ends pretty much year after year after year. Mike Shanahan would draft tight ends because tight ends was a big part of that zone offense that they had, basically a zone blocking scheme where you take the defenders where they wanted to go, running back cuts off of that. Technically, a tight end in Mike Shanahan's offense was a receiver, like being a slant receiver, you know. And Shannon, he was the best at it. He could chip block, get off the line. To me, very similar to what you see with Travis Kelce. And Travis Kelce is one of the best tight ends in the history of the game. I know Ozzie Newsome was a good tight end. I can name several tight ends that was super, super good over the career span of being in the NFL. But if you look at Shannon Sharpe, you have to put him up there with those tight ends. And if we do a tight ends list, we'll have to see where he places on that list, because I'm pretty sure that I'm confident that he will place high on that list as being one of the best tight ends in the game during his time of playing, right? Because we watched him play, so we know exactly how effective he was when it came to blocking, how effective he was when it came to catching and running with the ball. So, Sterling, I'm going to have to check that. I'm going to check that speech out because I was busy this weekend, so I didn't see the Hall of Fame game, nor did I see the Hall of Fame speech.
They probably have the NFL network. They're going to televise it again.
Exactly. And I do have the NFL network, so I will watch that as well. So that will pretty much wrap up our show. Do you have anything to add to what we were talking about earlier? Do you have anything?
We covered it.
Because we covered a lot of ground, I think. Yes. And we were able to kind of hit home with a lot of the topics that Annie Brown presented to us from our own personal perspective. And look, because we have personal perspectives doesn't mean they're always going to be factual. Doesn't mean they're always going to be something that you agree with. But we do have our own personal perspectives because we're all humans and we're all different. So if you want to comment on some of the things that we were talking about, we're more than happy to entertain your comments, because we're happy to be here presenting these topics to you as the viewer. Smash up that like button. Make sure that you're giving us a thumbs up as well, because we're here and the algorithm is continuing to push our conversations above the rim, and we're happy to see that. So we'll close this show out, and we'll close it out with Isaiah.
Hey, man, beautiful day. Beautiful day. We have Najee didn't show up today because he's got some other things happening, and we're welcome here later on. But other than that, man, we had a couple things what I wanted to hear his take on. But listen, man, this was dynamic. It was very fruitful. So you guys tell your friends about it. Tell your family, your coworkers that we're on. We loving what we're doing, and it's beautiful. And you guys enjoy the week. Be prosperous. Be loving to others, and keep us aboard. Keep us in your thoughts and prayers. Have a good week.
Absolutely. Take care of yourself first. Make sure you take care of your health, your mental health, your physical health, and overall everything that you're doing. Make sure that you're taking care of yourself in terms of what you're consuming, what you're putting in your body, liquid or food wise. Take care of those things, because it can actually keep you around a lot longer than you would actually be around if you're not doing those things. So take care of others, do something, do a favor for someone, help someone more so than doing a favor for, help someone. because I learned every day that I go out and I'm moving around Los Angeles. People have different situations. People have different they have different barriers that's keeping them from doing certain things is what I'm saying. So make sure that you help someone if they need help. And a lot of people are too proud to ask for help, but if you see they need help, at least volunteer to help. And if you volunteer to help, it'll come back to you twofold. So make sure you take care of everything, take care of you, help others, peace, love, and prosperity. Thank you for joining the DC Stewart Show. I'm Derek Stewart, along with my kinfolk, Isaiah. Peace, love, and prosperity.
You've reached the end of another episode of the DC Stewart Sports Talk podcast. Be sure to connect with us at Facebook and Twitter.com. Your voice is important, so head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Catch our next episode.